Hi there, I'm Karen Dunn of KMD Productions. From the equipment manufacturers to the engineers to the business people behind the scenes. Over the years, every member of the Pro Audio Corner of the music industry have become family to me, and it's my job to bring the whole eclectic crew together. Each episode, I'll introduce you to one of these characters and open a window into my world of creating community in pro audio. Thanks for tuning in to One and Done. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of One and Done. Today we have Ken Pooch Van Druten back for a second visit. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did, yes. Very, very well.
So Pooch was in my first episode, and it was June 8th of 2021, and he kicked off the whole thing. Yeah, it was a while ago. So it was, we were thick in the pandemic, and, I was missing seeing you in airports and doing events with you. So let's talk.
Okay.
Okay. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about when we had our first podcast was about mental health, the fact that the whole touring community had been laid off, and what do you do to keep mentally functioning? What do you do with all your time? And we talked a lot about creative outlets and learning things. And I'm pretty sure you said if you can't learn new things now, there's really an issue.
For real. Yeah. I really felt like it was a missed opportunity if you didn't spend a bunch of time, trying to improve your knowledge.
Yeah. So when did you start working again?
That's a great question. I don't know. 2022, I think, the beginning of 2022.
Okay. Were you apprehensive at all going back?
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt really strange. And, you got to remember this. It was the time where we still weren't really sure about this virus. Was it going to kill us all when we went back to work? And, we were all kind of in a weird PTSD almost kind of state.
Right.
Over the last 2 years, at least the people in our business, I think were, because none of us ever thought that this would just, shut off and we'd have, no avenue of making any money and, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, our businesses being around people. And so that was kind of hard. I remember the very first gig I did was a giant festival in Miami called Rolling Loud, and it was a giant rap festival. And it was bizarre. They didn't have any sort of things in place for COVID protocol, which was so strange. We sat there for years, 2 years talking about how things were going to change. We were going to, do this and, have a COVID officer and make sure that people were wearing masks, paying attention to, all of the stuff. And it was my first thing back was the worst example of all of that. Unfortunately, it was the CDC deemed it as an outbreak. They literally it was a huge, giant festival in Miami. And it caused something like 30,000 cases of COVID because there wasn't any protocols.
Wow.
So yes, it was strange. It was the expectation of, hey, maybe we're gonna, be better. And my first experience of that was not that, later, as I did a couple of other gigs after that single, it was just a one-off. There was definitely some things in place, and people made some drastic changes to how they function. But that particular festival and my first experience back after 2 years of being off was just a complete free for all. So yeah, that was a little spooky.
My first experience getting back to events was the NAMM trade show.
Oh
And
boy.
I think the hardest thing, and I wonder if you experienced this, it was like I had a mask, hand sanitizer. I tried to stay away from people, but just so many people together was so freaky because, it's just been us.
Yeah.
So that part was really hard to adjust to.
I really think there, mental health wise, there was a little bit of a reality of this PTSD of getting into crowds again was, I think took a little bit of time for people to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
And I think some people handled it better than others. I think there's definitely some people that came back and were like, whoa, this is not what I want to do. Or, I think it affected people differently.
Now that you've been at it for a couple of years back, how has the whole aspect of touring changed, or has it? Is it back to the way it was before the pandemic? Did you just roll back into it?
It's funny. I really wish that I wasn't about to say what I'm about to say. It bums me out that we spent a lot of time, all of us, talking about how we can improve touring and make it a better place in regards to health and safety and those kind of things. And if it's not the same, it's even maybe worse. Just people aren't. I don't know. I just feel like maybe people took away from that. Oh, it was. I don't think that enough people were affected in the sense of having a family member pass away or whatever, and so people still look at it like, oh, this was just a major cult that put us on hold for a couple of years. There's still people that think that. And it's like, well, no, million people died. You know what I mean? I mean, this was truly a pandemic. And so I think people need to be reminded of that. But the problem is, like with anything else, it costs money to,
Right.
put in protocols and to carry a safety officer, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
all those kind of things. And eventually, unfortunately, in our business, especially, people kind of gamble on that. They just go, well, I don't want to pay the money. I'm going to gamble that everything's going to be okay. And so what it turned into was don't ask, don't tell. It was people that are sick that are not telling anybody that they're sick, because if they said they were sick, then they would get sent home and therefore lose their job, basically.
Right.
Our jobs are not contract jobs. We're word of mouth jobs mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think people were fearful for losing their job. And so it really did turn into don't ask, don't tell. And it still kind of is that. People on, at least in my experience, the people in the tours that I've been on, if they get really sick, and then they're like, okay, I don't want to give this to anybody, and so I think most people do the right thing. But as a tour or as an organization, we're not really doing anything about it, which is really unfortunate.
And do you think it's just all bottom line dollar?
I think it is, truly. I think this is all money related. It would require an artist to be proactive and to spend money on having a safety officer, for example.
Yeah.
Someone that was doing, active testing when there was, somebody that got sick. And they just, they don't want to spend the money. It's interesting to me. I've been on tours recently where they had a safety officer for like crowd control.
Oh, interesting.
They were paying somebody to pay attention to, how people, the way the barricade was set up, for example, and how people were on the floor and, that kind of thing. So that is a thing. but they
Hmm.
are paying attention to the the sick aspect of this.
I think it would be more important to keep your staff healthy and your artists healthy than.
You would think, but it's really turned into the same old stuff, which was and still is. Hey, there's a rock doc in production, and he's giving out B12 shots. That's like
Mhm.
literally what's happening right now.
Uh-huh.
And okay, I mean, it's fine that it is that. It always has been that. It's just reverted back to it. It's that the part that I don't like about it is that we didn't learn from that 2-year thing, and I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what I'm asking for, like what I think would be an appropriate response.
Uh-huh.
Because carrying another person, I know I've been a production manager. I know how much it costs to carry even just one more person. There's bus
Yeah.
space, there's hotels, or all those kind of things. So I get it. It costs money. And I don't know if that's the answer. What I don't like about it is that we've ignored it. Like no one's
Yeah.
talking about it anymore. It's just is what it is. We're going on with life, which is okay, cool. But by the way, a couple of years ago, a million
Yeah.
people
And
died.
it's not gone.
No,
So
and it's not gone.
yeah.
So, I mean, whatever. We're skirting around politics of, what people think about this. There
Mhm.
are certain people that think it's, this is nothing. And, why are we even talking about it? And then there's
Right.
the flip side of that coin is there are tons of people that are like, screaming from the rooftops going, I can't believe that you're not paying attention,
Yeah. Yeah.
and somewhere in the middle there, I think would be an active response. Um, I think that our business in general is getting better in many ways. There's people that are super active. The Event Safety Alliance, for example. Jim Digby and a
Yeah.
bunch of other people that have come together, and production managers that have come together, are doing some really great things, and we are better as an industry for it. Talking about sound restrictions and all those kind of things. And I
Mhm.
think along with that is probably hopefully a discussion with some production managers about how to handle that. Yeah, unfortunately, we had there was an example of this where a guitar tech, a good friend of many people that are in this industry who worked for a major band, um, ignored the fact that he had COVID, refused to go to the hospital, and ended up passing away. And it really turned that whole production team kind of inside out. People blaming the production manager and blaming management for
Wow.
not forcing the guy to go to the hospital, and all these kind of things. Man, it's a really hard topic to talk about because people have such opinions about either
Right.
side. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I it really hasn't changed, unfortunately.
Has your love and passion for your job changed in the 2 years you had off?
That's a really interesting question because I still absolutely love my job. Um, I'm getting older, so the you have to factor in the travel part of this is not as fun for me
Mhm.
anymore. I just did a thing with Travis Scott where we had a show in Detroit on Tuesday and a show in Chicago on Friday, and between Tuesday and Friday, I flew to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for a one-off, and 50 hours of travel to be on the
Wow.
ground for less than 10 hours for a
That's
20-minute
crazy.
show. Um, just kind of doesn't interest me anymore.
Uh,
I mean, I was telling people, I was telling my wife, I said, hey, this would have been hard for a 20-year-old, but in my 50s, I'm like, So the travel part of it is getting tough for me. But I still have great passion for what I do.
so I know you spent a lot of time learning new things, gear stuff, all that when
Yeah,
we were shut down. Okay, have you taken any of the skills that you've learned during that and incorporated it into your shows now?
100%. I'm a better engineer because of the time that I spent um, learning about some new things. Specifically, I spent a bunch of time learning how to be quicker on a couple of different software pieces, Pro Tools and some other things. And so out of that, out of the pandemic, certainly I'm quicker and faster at some things.
I know a lot of people retired when
Yeah,
everything shut down. You lost a lot of people in the whole
sure
industry.
did.
So is that recovered now? How did you get people to come back in? Because I knew there was a lot, I've heard that there was a lot of issues. Nobody was experienced. It's just hard getting people to join.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's a bunch of people. I know of several amazing system engineers, guys that I've worked with for years, who, when they got stuck at home, they kind of looked around and went, wait a minute, I can make the same money working for UPS and be at home at night,
Uh-huh.
And so I think that they still have the passion to be able to do this job, but when you look at that and you have, let's say you have a young family, you got
Yeah.
babies, and you look at that and say, well, I can make the same money and be home at 6 p.m. every night.
Yeah.
It's hard to justify. So unfortunately, we lost some very, very skilled people, along with people that were, my age and older, that were like, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I've done for 40 years and I'm ready to stop. And so you lost those people as well. There is an influx of really just passionate young kids uh,
Mm-hmm.
right now. Every gig that I run into now are guys and girls with not a whole lot of experience, but super passionate about it and super happy that where they are, and want to learn and
Mm-hmm.
want to absorb. Um, this makes for sometimes interesting experiences because they just don't have the experience
Right.
that's kind of necessary. And what I'm finding is vendors, sound vendors, and lighting vendors, et cetera, are sending out like one person, guy or gal, that's had experience, and then six like brand spanking newbies, right out of the cradle.
Wow.
So that puts a lot of pressure on that one experienced person
Yeah.
to try to gather all that up. So in that, I see a lot of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are people that may not have tried to be in this industry before, and all of a sudden the opportunity came to them, and they were like, after the pandemic, all of these jobs opened up, and boom,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go do it, and then discovered that maybe this touring, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's listen, this is not for everyone. I tell people all the time, it's like I've missed some of the most important things in my life. I've missed because of my work, weddings and, funerals and whatever, um, uh, and so if you're not, um, ready for that or passionate about that, you may discover that you come out here and be like, oh, okay, no, this isn't for me. And so I'm seeing a bunch of people that get a month into a tour and just go, nope, this isn't for me. I'm going home,
Yeah.
which is absolutely fine. Like if you figure that out, then good on you. I mean, a lot of people stay in it, right? People stay in jobs that they hate just because that's what you do, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think if you can figure it out in a month, you're ahead.
I
So
100%. You know, and I actually applaud, you know, some of these. I've had a couple of kids that were like, I can't, this isn't for me. And I've actually said, well, congratulations, because you know, you figured that out, you know.
yeah.
In no
Yeah.
way is this a bad thing. You know, this is not like, oh, you know, I can't believe you're not sticking with it, you know, or whatever. Which is maybe something that, you know, our generation or our parents' generation would have said to a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But man, if you can figure that out and then go figure out what it is that you're passionate about, amazing. Good for you.
And in music, there's all these different aspects, right? So maybe they want to stay in music, but you go do something that
100%.
works better for you. Yeah.
100%. And, you know, those two people that I'm thinking of specifically ended up going back and working for the company at the main, you know, company at Claire Global, and ended up, you know, they love what they do, but they're going home at night and, you know, not on the road.
Yeah.
This particular life of being gone is maybe not right for everybody.
Yeah. So how do you maintain relationships, whether it's a spouse or friends, family? Does your wife travel with you when you're touring? Because these things are long. You're gone a lot. I know you FaceTime with your dogs. I'm assuming you FaceTime with your wife, but it's not the same. So how do you maintain that part of your life?
It's tough. I think, so, you know, I added up how many days that I've been gone for 2023, and I've been away from home for 311 days, I think, or something.
Wow.
2023.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, that's tough. How do you maintain a relationship, you know, with that? I think it takes, I've been very lucky. I got married already doing this. So, you know,
so she knew.
My wife, Shelly, knew what she was getting into. You know, she saw it in all through the, you know, 5 years that we dated prior to getting married. So she knew what it was. I think it requires a spouse or a companion that is really independent in themselves and has their own kind of thing going on. The way that it works for me anyway is that, you know, we literally lead separate lives. Then we come back together for like 2 months a year and focus on each other during those 2 months. But outside of that, you know, my wife has friends and, you know, work and all those kind of things that I'm not a part of at all. So it's almost like having two separate lives that then we just decide every year to come together for 2 months and focus on. But we do make a super conscious effort to when those spaces open up when I'm home, like we cancel everything. Like I literally turn my phone off, don't pick up the phone. She doesn't take any, you know, stuff. And we are very passionately fight for those times. So, you know, when I get home, there's a lot of times people call me and they're like, oh, you're home. So, you know, let's do whatever, or let's go do this, or, you know, glad to see that you're home. Let's go do this. And I'm always protecting the time that I have specifically with my spouse. And just say, well, no, I can't make it. I've committed to, you know, spending time here. And that seems to work for me. You know, and in my world, you know, we consciously decided not to have children because it would have made her kind of a single parent, you know,
right.
With me getting to be fun dad, you know, and those were discussions that we had. You know, we were like, no, it's not. You know, it's not going to be good for the kids. It's not good for us. And so we happily participate in our, my wife has two sisters that all have children and now have children. So now we have grand,
Uh-huh. Oh, that's cool.
and we participate in their lives a lot. So we
Nice.
share other people's kids.
Nice.
Um,
And then
but,
you can give them back.
there are tons of roadies that make it work with a family.
Mhm.
It's not like you can't have a family and do this.
Yeah.
There are people that do this.
Yeah. So if people want to get into the touring field, what's the easiest pathway? Do you get to hire your own assistant? Like, could you?
I don't. No. I have a hand in the discussion of who it's going to be. But it is truly always comes from the sound vendor. So I think the traditional way that people come to this industry is by getting hired by a vendor, whatever it is, lighting, video, sound, and work for that vendor, get trained by them, start coming out on tours, and then make contact with people like myself that are independent people. And there are a group of, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys that I always request, those guys that we end up touring a lot. And so I do end up kind of seeing the same people that end up being my assistant, but that's because I'm requesting them through the company. So yeah, it's funny. I get this question a lot. It's like, how do I get your job? I don't know. I really don't know. Like the industry was so different when I first started as to how you got into it. Way more Lost Boys circus time where you pull into a city and there's some guy that's a carpenter and you're like, wait, you want to come on the road, It's not like that anymore. It's way more specialized. And so getting into this industry is a bit harder, I think, than when I first started. But I would advise anybody to either work locally in your local theater, your local venue. I know for sure that there's been a bunch of people that have been hired by tours that were working as a runner for an arena event, and the production manager said, man, this person has got they have got their stuff together. Let's hire them to come with us. And when people get jobs that way, any way that you can get close to the touring party and make an impression, that's a way to get in as well.
So if someone's a recording engineer and they decide they want to go into live sound, they want to just switch, what are the characteristics that are going to be different taking someone out of a studio and putting them on a tour?
Well, I would say as a mixer, the jobs are similar now. And the reason that they're similar is because speaker technology for live sound has come leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. So speaker technology is a bit more like mixing on near fields or like studio and providing that to every seat. Whereas when I first started, it was we were literally like high-fiving when you could hear the vocal, the vocal all night long. Yes, it was amazing. All night. And so now it's a lot more studio quality mixes. And so being a studio guy and showing up into live land, I think that transition is a lot easier. The thing that's hard in live land that studio guys don't have any experience in is managing the immenseness of the system. So like for instance, I'm out with Travis Scott right now, and there's 202 speakers that are hung around. There's 66 subs. It's a lot. And managing stuff like low end and sub information in a venue that is kind of already making that information
Mm-hmm.
is a different experience for a recording engineer than what they're used to. So yeah, it's managing speaker systems more than managing what their mix is. Most
Mm-hmm.
record guys can, output their console, a really great mix happening. It's what happens after that, that live guys have to focus with.
I'm really interested in your mindset because you were with Iron Maiden for a long tour and
Yeah.
then you went to Travis Scott.
Yeah.
So do you prepare differently for different genres? What can you take from one to the other, or is it completely different? Is it a different mindset?
It is a different mindset of mixing. But it's really kind of about studying what the genre sounds like and studying the record and what is important. Um, uh, so, for instance, in Iron Maiden, sub information and low end information is not as important
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
it is for a rap artist like Travis Scott.
Uh-huh.
Um, the people that come out to see a Travis Scott show expect to have, sub impact. They expect their body to be moved by the low end sound.
Right. Yeah.
That is not an expectation that people that come to see Iron Maiden have. And so there is two different philosophies on how to mix those two things. And thus the reason that most engineers get pigeonholed into a specific genre, because there is a thought process to each one.
Mm-hmm.
I've been super, super blessed in that I have bumped around in a bunch of different genres. And I think that was totally by chance. Yeah, I went from mixing Kiss to mixing Whitney Houston, and that just happened by chance, and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of dictated my career further on. It's like, well, you can do Whitney Houston and you can do Kiss, and so that kind of
Yeah.
made it so that I could do those things. And I feel super blessed because honestly, I get tired of a certain genre sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's like I want to go do something different. I was speaking with another good friend of mine, this guy Toby Francis, who's a world-class mixer. And we were talking about how sometimes it's like, man, I just get tired of mixing guitars, like blazing out guitars. I want something else, something mm-hmm. different. So luckily I've had opportunities to go do those kind of things.
So is there a genre that's more challenging than the others?
Well, that's a good question. I think they're equally challenging. They're just different. Mm-hmm. And you have to approach them differently. But yeah, I don't think, I think some people think that Travis Scott, who's, a rap artist that's basically a DJ and him, there's mm-hmm. no live instruments on stage. There are some people that think that is super easy. Like, hey, boy, that sounds like a great gig. It's 6 inputs, wow, it's going to be mm-hmm. great. It's actually kind of more difficult than the 60 inputs of Iron Maiden in some ways, simply because there's less things to hide behind,
Hi.
When you have 60 inputs worth of stuff, if a guitar stops working, you have the other two guitars and the drums and the bass and all of that stuff is working. Your average person doesn't pay attention to the fact that guitar is not working. When you're working with Travis Scott and the DJ mixer dies, there's nothing else. That's it. There's really nothing to hide behind. And so there's some things about that are particularly difficult and challenging. So both of them have challenging things. They're just different things.
Mm-hmm. So what's been your favorite stop this year? Your favorite experience on tour?
Wow. Well, it's funny. We were just talking about how before we got started, how it's like, I don't even remember what I was doing yesterday. I'm trying to remember, like, where did I go this year? I don't know. That's a hard question. You know, there's a joke I always make. People always, all my friends and family, of course, they all think, "Oh, you have this amazing job. You get to go see all this stuff," and it's like, and I'm always like, "Well, I'm in, wherever Colorado today," and they're like, "Oh, wow, it's amazing. You must go out and see all the," and I'm like, "No, it's red seats today. Yesterday
Yeah.
was green seats, and tomorrow's yellow seats."
Now,
It's
what do you do on your day off? Do you go tour around the city? Do you go check out sites? Do you sleep? What do you do?
try to rest,
Uh,
as much as we can. This particular tour that we're on is crazy. We're doing 2-day load-ins, and it's 7-hour outs. So
oh,
there are people that are on this tour that don't get a day off and haven't had a day off since October 1st.
wow.
And that is, I mean, after a while, that's really grinds on you.
Yeah.
We talk about on this tour a lot the stage manager, particularly Larry, who's amazing. Really tries to get a handle mental health wise on how people are doing, because when you aren't getting any days off, that's
It's
you know
tough. It's really
tough.
tough.
Yeah. When you're doing 16-hour days and you're not getting a day off, and the only time that you have off is that 6-hour bus ride between cities, that's
Yeah.
tough.
It's
Uh,
brutal. Yeah.
yeah. But for me, my days off these days, as I'm getting older, in my 20s when I first started doing this, it was always like, oh, I'm in a new city. Let's go out and see, all the stuff. And now I've been everywhere in the world except for Antarctica, and seen a lot of things. So my days off now more are like, let's go back to that killer restaurant that we were at last time we were here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or let's go find a nice meal somewhere. That's really kind of where I'm at. The rest of the time is, um, you know, it's doing things like this. Actually, most of my time is spent. I'm doing. I just finished writing a college course, for microphones for Berkeley College of Music Online, and that
That's
was a
great.
labor of love. It was literally 5 years of tons of meetings.
Wow.
You know, um, I don't think I ever want to write a college course again, to be honest. I didn't realize, like, you don't realize how much work is put into, writing a curriculum for a college course. So honestly, my days off are a lot of those things.
um, and we talked a lot about balanced life, mental health. Now that you're back on the road, what of all the things that we talked about and all the things that you were practicing when you weren't working, have you been able to continue those things? What are you doing to maintain that balance while you're touring?
Uh, yeah. I mean, um, I don't know. I don't want to be like Debbie Downer about it, but it's like there was a lot of talk and not a lot of implementation, on my part as well. You sit at home and you're like, well, man, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to, spend more time for myself, and whatever that means, take more time for myself, and really focus on that. And there are some people that have, like I see in social media, there's a few engineers that I envy, because it seems like they've really kind of latched on to self-care and, like, taking care of themselves. And I really wish I could say that I do that more. I do. I definitely, there are days where I'm like, computer off, phone off, not doing it. I'm gonna, take
Hmm.
time for myself today. And
Yeah.
go walk. I'm in Boston today, so it's a beautiful day. It's cold, but it's like, you go walking down by the, in Cambridge here. It's gorgeous.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
small. So I'm gonna go do that later on and have a nice walk down by the river. So you have to do those things. I wish I did it more. I wish I could say that I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm doing great. But there's just days where it's like, there's days where you want to, curl up in your bed in the fetal position and just,
Yep.
just try to forget like what happened, the
Yeah.
night before.
Tell me about other projects you're working on. So you just did this class for Berkeley. I know
Yeah.
you're nominated for a Parnelli Award for front of house
Yeah.
for
Super.
Iron Maiden. So that's great.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. What else do you have going on?
Yeah. So I'm continually try to educate. I enjoy sharing my love and my passion for what I do. And I think, I always tell people, listen, I didn't make any of this up. Every single thing that I do as an engineer every day, I do it because I watched someone that's way better than me do it. And I just replicate it. I'm not smart enough to make any of this stuff up. So, um, but the thing is that I lived in a period that doesn't exist anymore. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't exist. But I lived in a period when I was an assistant engineer in studios when there were true artists who were producers and engineers and spent years of honing their craft, and were making records in studios. And that's not to say that doesn't still happen, but it's not as prevalent as it was. And it's because people can make a record in their garage, and there are a lot of people that are doing that. And that's cool. But the art of engineering and the art of being a recording engineer and a producer in some ways has been lost. And so there are some things that I've learned as an assistant working behind Bruce Fedine or Jack Joseph Puig or any one of those people, that I had the luck of working behind them and just seeing what they do. And then now it's my turn. Like it's my turn to share that with anyone that'll listen. Like, hey, these guys way smarter than me do, this is how they make a guitar. I'm not telling you that's because I learned how to, or I thought of how to do that. I'm telling you that they were doing it. And so, you guys should do it the same way. So I think I'm in a unique position in that I was at a time period right when that kind of artistry started to go away, and studios disappeared. And so I think I have some stuff to offer kids, and I'm willing to dole it out, so I'm enjoying that. And, that means that's all kinds of things. It's this stuff like doing this. It's stuff like writing a course for Berkeley. It's stuff like, recording a bunch of things, with Chris Raybold and I are still working as a partnership and doing things. So yeah, I mean, I will continue to do that as long as people want to listen.
Now, what's your favorite thing about touring?
The joy that we give to people coming to concerts, I think is still something that I love to see. The most of, like Travis Scott is, I call him like this generation's punk rock. Like he has a mostly male following, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that are just have this energy about them. And man, those kids on social media after a show just talk about how this was the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life, that kind of stuff. Kids walking out, saying those kind of things. That's super rewarding still, when someone's walking out and just go, man, it sounded amazing. That, that is awesome. And I still get, the hair on my arms still stand up when there's moments that I know were connecting with, the entire crowd. We just played last night. We played Madison Square Garden, and it just was crazy. People were off the hook. It was like, the curfew is 11 p.m. and we played until like 11:45. It was like nuts. And so I still love that. I still love that connection and that feeling of you being a part of that. No drug, no alcohol, nothing can compete.
Yeah. Okay, last question. The one I asked you, your last question last time. I'm going to go meet one of your favorite cities anywhere in the world. Where are we eating? What are we drinking? What are we listening to? And what are we talking about?
Oh, boy. I have this weird connection to New York City. Like, I never in a million years would want to live there. But every time I go, I feel like in a past life, I may have had sort of weird connection to the city. I really, it's a strange thing. I didn't grow up in New York. I grew up in California and, all those kind of things. But every time I go to that city, and I always have this, like, I don't know, connection to things there. And so, I don't know, probably go to Peter Luger's, get ourselves an amazing steak, that's been there for 120 years. And then, I don't know, jazz club.
Okay.
Hang out, have some cocktails.
Okay. Sounds good. And what are we going to talk about?
Well, that's a really good question. Pondering life. Going as I'm in the twilight of my years, going, oh man, these damn kids, get these kids off my lawn. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I get introspective these days, and kind of, I've had amazing experiences in my life, and I hope that that's not over. But there's a lot of kids always ask me, like young sound kids are always going, well, tell me about, this or that. And I start talking about my life, and it's like, man, I've had like 4 weird phases in my life where I've been different things. I've been like, I was an EMT, I was a paramedic for a while. Then I was, these weird like things that have happened in my life that shaped the way that I am. And so, a discussion of that, and I don't know where we're going after that,
Yeah. I think that's good. I like that. Okay. Well, once again, I love talking with you. I miss seeing you in person. I hope to get to see you at NAMM since you'll be there.
Definitely, we will. It's funny. I'm only going to be there for 2 days because it's in between 2 shows of Travis Scott. But I'm flying in on Thursday, and I land at like 2, and then I mix the RCF party that night. And then Friday is the Parnellis. But yeah, sometime, hopefully Friday, we can maybe have a coffee or something.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, thanks, Pooch. It was great to see you. Good luck on your tour. I hope you get to be home for Christmas.
I hope so too. We'll see how that goes. I mean, so far there's no weather, so that'll probably be okay.
It's good.
But and I'm not flying. I'm not trying to fly like today or tomorrow, which are the worst travel days.
Yeah.
The following day.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.